is some further Donald Trump. I am no longer a birther, but I am a girly man. Coverage by Chris Hayes.
This is an actual headline from earlier today about what's currently happening in the 2016 presidential campaign news cycle. Birther no more. Trump campaign concedes Obama is U.S. born. Apparently, the Republican nominee has come to believe that the President of the United States was actually born in the United States, but that conclusion didn't come from the candidate. It came from a pair of surrogates. The first, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, speaking with my colleague Chris Matthews last night.
Donald Trump believes now that he was born in the United States. But that issue was raised originally. That issue was raised originally.
When is he going to say that this president is legitimate? This is a fundamental question, Mr. Mayor. Is the president of the United States legitimate or not? Do you believe it? If you believe it, why does your candidate state it?
I believe it. He believes it. We all believe it.
Today, Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway echoed Giuliani's sentiment, but when asked why her candidate has not come out and actually say whether he believes the president was born here, Conway responded, "You'll have to ask him." It's good advice for journalists. Thing is, he has been asked about his birtherism recently. He just refuses to talk about it.
You don't talk about the birth certificate anymore. Do you regret even bringing it up?
I don't talk about it anymore. I don't talk about it.
You regret bringing it up back then?
I told you, I don't talk about it anymore.
Yeah, his prominent role in the birther movement is what launched Trump's current political career in the first place. Back in 2011, when Trump was considering a presidential run, raising questions about Barack Obama's birth certificate was how the reality TV star made his mark.
Are you a birther, Donald?
Okay, let me just say this. I was a really good student at the best school. I'm not like a smart guy, okay? They make these birthers into the worst it is. Why doesn't he show his birth certificate? I would like to have him show his birth certificate. And can I be honest with you? I hope he can. Because if he can't, and if he wasn't born in this country, which is a real possibility, I want him to show his birth certificate. There's something on that birth certificate that he doesn't like. A man and a woman with no money, they have a baby. There's announcements in the newspaper.
Excuse me.
The grandparents. Nothing Rockefeller doesn't put announcements.
Sure, there are birth announcements all the time.
I've never seen one.
Really?
No, I've never seen one. I have people that actually have been studying it and they cannot believe what they're finding.
You have people now down there searching, in Hawaii?
Absolutely, and they cannot believe what they're finding.
He spent millions of dollars trying to get away from this issue. Millions of dollars in legal fees trying to get away from this issue. And I'll tell you what, I brought it up just routinely, and all of a sudden, a lot of facts are emerging, and I'm starting to wonder myself whether or not he was born in this country. And his family is arguing over which hospital he was born in. The family doesn't even know the name of the hospital. No nurses, no doctors, nobody ever came forward. His grandmother in Kenya said, "Oh no, he was born in Kenya and I was there and I witnessed the birth." Now she's on tape, and I think that tape's going to be produced fairly soon. Somebody.
That's a lie. That was an absolute lie. And if you listen to him, he said he thinks that the tape's going to be produced fairly soon. It was an out and out lie back in 2012.
He's coming out with a book in about 2 weeks. It's going to be very interesting.
People have birth certificates. He doesn't have a birth certificate. Now, he may have one, but there's something on that birth, maybe religion, maybe it says he's a Muslim, I don't know. Or there's something on the birth certificate that he doesn't want people to think that could be. I don't know. I mean, maybe it says he's Muslim, which wouldn't bother me. I mean, if it's that thing, if that's it, it's it. It's what it is.
See, and that was a precursor for him going after Muslims.
You cannot understand Donald Trump as a political figure without going back to the origins of his birtherism. And we'll talk with someone who advised him on that strategy next.
A few years ago, you led the birther movement. You sent investigators out to Hawaii to find out whether or not Obama, which you said was not born here.
Well,
and it turned out to not be true, so why should they believe you
according
here?
to you, it's not true. I don't know.
He released his birth certificate.
If you believe that, that's fine. I don't care. It's an old subject. I'm about jobs. I'm about security. I'm about fixing the military. I'm about taking care of our vets. I'm about things that you don't have to bring up old subjects. Whether he did or not, who knows?
Okay, now look at the date in the corner. It says July 2015. This is 2016. Racist ass Rudy Giuliani said that Trump had acknowledged that Obama was U.S. born 2 or 3 years ago. 2 years ago would have been 2014. 3 years ago, obviously, would have been 2013. This clip is from 2015. All he had to say was, yeah, President Obama was born in Hawaii, and that would have put the whole thing to bed. Unfortunately, he couldn't do it, and he still hasn't done it.
A lot of people don't agree with you on that, by the way.
That's not definitive. Just to be clear, that was in this campaign. Our own Katie Tur asked him that question at the start of this campaign. Joining me now, Jamil Smith, senior national correspondent for NBC News, and former Trump campaign aide Sam Nunberg was one of Trump's advisors when he first latched onto the birther movement, helped advise Trump on strategy. I should say you have parted ways with Trump as of this point. What was the thinking that made this? He went from Donald Trump reality TV figure to possible Republican presidential candidate based on this issue.
Well, the idea was that we needed somebody who could be this iconoclastic, larger-than-life figure, like the president, by the way, like Obama, who was going to take him on, hurt his favorability. It was also going to be the guy that said, if you gave us the nomination in the primary, as opposed to Mitt Romney or Newt Gingrich, I'm here to play and I'm here to win.
So was it to show that he could take down Obama? I mean, was that basically the thinking here?
Well, look, here's the thing. He had the president communicate with him. He had the president flat out have to send advisors to Hawaii to get a copy of the birth certificate. And and the issue became Donald Trump against Barack Obama.
Right, but but in some ways, that issue,
right.
I mean, when we look at the polling, I mean, that issue, that in some ways, it's sort of the unforgivable sin. I think not just for black voters, but for a lot of voters, but particularly, I think, for black voters, it is the unforgivable sin.
I think a lot of black voters were already hit to his housing discrimination and also the Central Park 5 ad in 1989, but this only took the cake. I mean, you had the first black president being, delegitimized.
Right.
Effectively by somebody who's not qualified to really make any kind of comment in that regard. And also, I mean, his recent, denial of this is trying to skate around this. The effect of it is really to say, like, hey, these black voters who are upset by this, they're kind of crying wolf on this. They're really not actually offended. They're just want to, strike at me.
Well, look, we certainly wanted to deflect from this and not talk about it this cycle, even in the primary.
Why? Well, did you realize that he looked ridiculous when the President of the United States was forced to show his papers and they showed exactly what he said?
We were worried that if he could be categorized simply as a birther, as opposed to Donald Trump, the entrepreneur, the outsider, the guy who's going to come take back Washington for the people, which was what he ran on, that populist measures in the primary, it would be a loser.
So this was a strategic choice not to talk about it anymore.
Right, and he did that by the way.
But wait a second. Does he still believe it? Did he ever believe it?
I do have a confidentiality agreement with him. He has said he has said publicly. I will say this. This was certainly news to me that the campaign is now saying that he believes that the president was born in America, because we simply said that we weren't going to talk about the issue. That was our answer.
Let me just ask you. You seem like a perfectly nice dude.
Yes. I'm not a birther.
Okay,
I'm not a birther.
I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, the president was born in Hawaii.
Yes, good. I'm glad we're all on the same page.
Yes.
Do you recognize how disruptive this was? I mean, do you understand when Jamil talks about this sort of, like, do you get why people found this unbelievably insulting and offensive and racist?
Racist. There were some. I do understand why people found this insulting. I could see why some people could think it was racist, but I also think it was a strategically smart move for Trump to use initially when he introduced himself into the cycle.
Do you think that's true?
We're talking about for the Republican primary.
It set the stage for what's happening now. He signaled to the constituency that he has now that, hey, I'm one of you. I'm going to articulate your message. So look, there are a lot of people out there who wanted to delegitimize the president, who wanted to make sure that not only they paint him as an outsider, but as a Muslim outsider. And so, hey, here's a guy who's willing to do it. Now he's running for president. Oh, I'm going to vote for him.
Do you think there's a connection between that? It's not an accident, or you're saying we wanted him to sort of win despite that. We wanted to put that in the past. Do you think that was what paved the way for him to be the nominee?
When you talk to voters on the trail, they are, focused on this issue. It is a primary motivation for a lot of people to vote for Trump.
Barack Obama, by the way, he's Hillary Clinton's #1 asset right now.
Yes, he clearly is. But the point that Jamil made there is important. Donald Trump may have turned away from it, but I've had voters when I was covering the Republican primary, say, of course I don't think he was born in the U.S., or yes, I think he's a Muslim. There's polling on this. I mean, this belief.
There were, by the way, independents that thought this.
Well, yes,
too, remember?
Sure.
They're
no wiser than partisan. Let's just be clear. All right, Jamil Smith, Sam Nunberg, good to have you here. Thank you very much. All right, now.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you take an attack point. And this guy obviously was part of the Trump campaign, and he didn't believe it, but they were basically using this point, okay, in order to propel Trump up into the limelight. And unfortunately, because of racist people or bigoted people, or whatever you want to call them, they took the ball and ran with it. And to this day, you still have 40% of the people that support Donald Trump that believe that President Obama was born in Kenya and he's a Muslim. That doesn't even count the people that don't support Donald Trump that believe the president was born in Kenya and is a Muslim.